Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I wanted to talk about something that I'm quite passionate about and something that I've been asked about a few times, and that is, where should you get your rats from? Now I'm not going to sit here and preach to you about where you personally should get your rats from, because I know everyone's circumstances are different, but I am going to be talking through some of the pros and cons of getting your rats from breeders, from rescues and from pet shops. So some of the things I'm going to be addressing and talking about today do also apply to other small animals, for example hamsters and gerbils, because some of the circumstances and situations do apply. For example, you can find hamster breeders and you can find hamsters in rescues, so keep that in mind if you are thinking of getting any other small animal as well, but some of these things will probably apply to most small animals. So the first place I wanted to talk about, and the place that I recommend you start first, is a rescue centre. Now, one of the pros of getting rats from rescue centres is that not only are you helping rats that need a home find a home, it's also quite a rewarding experience for you yourself. Now, depending on the rats that you do get, some shelter rats can be very tame and very friendly, which can help you skip the whole taming process. If you were to get baby rats, you may be getting rats that are already tame, which is good if you are looking for rats to be a first-time rat owner. Then if you do find some in a shelter that are already tame, it helps to skip this process and you'll get friendly rats straight away. Now, I guess this is a con of getting rats from shelters, and that is that not all rats will be tame and friendly, which I guess if you are a first-time rat owner, then I would suggest against getting rats that you don't think you can personally handle, and there will be other rats for you that are suitable. It's just about going to rescues and seeing what they have available and asking them what they think would be suitable for your situation. If you are looking to rehome a rat, chances are there will be rats in your area. If it's not in a rescue centre and you can't find a rescue centre, which I guess is another con, if you don't have rescue centres in your area, then you may find it difficult to actually rehome rats. I suggest joining some groups, maybe on Facebook, for rat rehoming, where there's people advertising their own rats they need to give up for whatever reason, and that way you can rehome rats without having to go through a rescue centre if you don't have one in your area. Now, I guess another con that some people may think of when going to rescue centres is that the rats you're adopting may have less time with you because they may be older than if you were to get a baby. This may be a problem for some people when they are thinking of going and getting rats, but I personally think that the experience of adopting rats and rescuing rats is completely worth having a little bit less time with them, because it is quite a rewarding experience. Now, the next option for getting rats is to go to a reputable breeder, and the important word in this is reputable. Now, a good breeder will breed for the rats to have good health and temperament, which is important for the rats to be genetically as healthy as possible, as they are prone to a lot of different diseases and illnesses, so it's important to get a rat as healthy as you can, and a lot of breeders will breed their rats to have the best health possible. Now, not only will the breeders breed for your rats to genetically have a good temperament, they will also handle them from a very young age, which makes the taming process when they do get to your house a little bit easier, because they will already be comfortable and used to humans, which makes things a little bit easier. Now, depending on the breeders and the breeders you have in your area, they will be breeding for different varieties, so different colours and patterns, and it depends what you're looking for, but chances are you will find a colour or variety that you're interested in a certain breeder. Now, most breeders will only breed for a select few varieties, so depending on your area you may be able to find a specific certain looking rat that you're looking for. Another pro of going to a breeder, not all breeders will do this and it depends on how much time they have. Some breeders will send you update photos of your rats once you've reserved them, and this is a really great way to bond with your rats before you've even got them, because you can watch them grow up and get really cute updates on them. Now, another plus of going to a reputable breeder is that they will be there to support you throughout your rat's entire lifetime. If you have any issues, questions or concerns, contact your breeder and they should be able to answer them for you. And this is a really helpful tool, especially if you're owning rats for the first time, to have your breeder on the other end of the phone to answer any questions or queries you have. And most breeders will also take back any rats that you can't keep. If your circumstances do change, most breeders will take back any rats that they have bred. Now, I guess a con of going to a breeder is that some breeders will have really long, extensive waiting lists, and this is just because they are in such high demand because they are good breeders, but they're not breeding in surplus to supply that demand, so you may have to wait a little bit to get the rats you're looking for, and sometimes these lists can be as long as 6 months, but honestly it is worth waiting for healthy rats and friendly rats. And yeah, I guess that's the only downside of going to a breeder, is that you may have to wait a little bit longer than if you were to go to some of the other options. Now, another con and something to look out for is that not all breeders will be reputable and not all breeders will give you healthy rats. Now, these breeders are generally backyard breeders that are mass producing rats Not on the scale that pet shops do, but they're still overbreeding and often they'll sell you sick rats and not really know what they're doing. So I'd look out for recommendations of breeders in your area, go on some forums, go on some Facebook pages, ask around about where people have got their rats from and find out if the breeders in your area are any good or not. So the last place I want to talk about is pet shops. Now I guess the only pro I can think of from getting rats from pet shops is that it's quick and easy. You can go in, you can pick your rats up, be out the door. It's quite an impulsive thing, but it's quite quick and easy. Now on the other hand, there is a lot of cons to getting rats from pet shops or any other small animal. The list of cons that I have is a lot longer than the list of cons for any of the other options, and to be honest, the cons of the breeders and the rescues aren't really that big when it comes to comparing them to the cons of going to a pet shop. So when I'm talking about pet shops, I'm mainly talking about chain pet shops. Some pet stores and pet shops that are run independently may be better than chain pet stores, or they may be worse than chain pet stores. So I'm generalising in talking about chain pet stores when I'm talking about pet stores in general. So the first one I have to mention about getting rats from pet stores is that they will not be genetically bred to have good health or to have good temperament. They simply don't have the time to be selectively breeding for these kind of things because they need to mass produce to supply the demand of people that are wanting these small animals. Now this can mean that you get a very, very sick animal. As soon as you get them home, you may be faced with some health issues that can quickly cost you a lot of money in vet bills, and this may persist throughout your rat's entire life because they may be bred genetically to have really bad health. Now they're also not bred to have good temperament, so they may take a little bit more time to get used to you, and they're also not handled very much in store, which means when you get them home you basically have to start right from the beginning to get them to trust you. Now some rats will come out the other end of this and be completely fine with humans and make really, really good pets, but some rats may not ever recover from being in that pet shop situation and not having been handled from an early age, and they can actually never really be tamed. And this is a problem I get coming in my comment sections a lot with people that have got rats from pet shops and they're asking me what they can do to help their rats. Some of them are already about 2 years old and they're still not tame, and unfortunately some rats may never be as tame as some of the rats you see on the internet, and this is just something you have to consider and be expecting if you are getting rats from pet shops, because you just don't know what they're going to turn out like. Another thing is that they're really not kept in ideal conditions. Now not only are the rats in the actual pet shop kept sometimes in really bad conditions, so they will be kept in tanks, which is never good for rats' respiratory systems, and often they're overcrowded. Now it's not just the problems of the rats' conditions in the pet shop. What the conditions are like behind the pet shop where they're being bred in rodent mills is often a lot worse, and it's often the conditions that your rat's parents are being kept in that are really diabolical. I like that word, diabolical. If you don't want to see something kind of upsetting, then I'd look away now, but I think it's important for you to see what the conditions are like in pet shops to prevent you from buying into this industry. So I'll insert some pictures here of some rodent mills where rats are bred, and this is where most chain pet stores will source their animals from. So by buying rats or any other small animal from these situations and circumstances, you may feel like you're saving them from these circumstances, but ultimately if you are buying an animal out of that situation, the pet shop is just going to put another one in its place, and they're just going to keep breeding and keeping these rats and other small animals in these conditions. So although you may feel like you're saving this animal, you're actually buying into the industry, which doesn't help the rats and other small animals in the long run. Now although some pet stores will say that they get their rats from a local breeder, often this really isn't the case, and any reputable breeder would not be supplying pet stores with their animals, and they also wouldn't be able to meet the demand, which is why these rodent mills exist, to breed these animals to create a very high supply and demand of small animals, and it's really not ideal for them to be kept in these situations, and it's really, really cruel. Another con of buying rats from pet stores is that sometimes the staff, not all staff, some are quite knowledgeable, but some will often sell you a species of animal without knowing anything about it, which means they can sometimes sell you the wrong setup and equipment for them, and sometimes they will actually sell you the wrong sex or gender of animal. I don't know how someone can get the sex of a rat wrong, because male rats are really obvious, but it does happen, and people will often buy rats that they think are the same gender, and when they get them home they end up with about 15 rats because they have started to breed, which obviously isn't ideal, especially if it's your first rat. So sometimes pet stores can actually sell you a male and a female, and you'll end up with a lot of rats, which isn't ideal. So that's everything that I wanted to mention, talking about the pros and cons of getting your rats from pet shops, from breeders or from rescues. Personally, I would recommend that you start looking in rescues first, contacting some rescues saying that you are interested in getting some rats and see what they suggest and what they have available. If the rescue centres in your area don't have any rats available, then I suggest contacting some breeders and getting your names down on their waiting lists to get rats from reputable breeders. I really don't recommend you go out and get rats from pet stores. Not only are you supporting a really cruel industry, but you're also going to probably come across some problems along the way, so I really wouldn't recommend going down the route of getting any small animal from a pet shop. If you have anything to add about anything I've mentioned today, feel free to leave it in the comment section. Subscribe if you want to see more animated videos from me, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye!